Hi everyone, sorry if the camera angle is a bit weird. It's like balanced on some books because I'm just really quickly filming this introduction before we get into the video. Okay, so some context. This video is a collaboration with Joe from the YouTube channel My Little Thought Tree, which I will link everything down below for that. So basically he emailed me like months ago now, asking to interview me for his YouTube channel, which I then checked out. And I really liked his videos, so I said yes to the interview, and also we decided that we'd do a video as well on my YouTube channel, because he's got some really interesting stuff to say about storytelling and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that'll be linked down below if you guys are interested in watching it. The video we did on his channel where he interviewed me, I mean, we filmed it ages ago now, so I'm trying to vaguely remember what we talked about or what I said in the video, but you guys can go watch it. I'm pretty sure I talked about sort of some personal stuff, what's been going on with me. I talked about grief as well a bit. I talked about sort of why I do some of the things I do, why I make some of the videos I make, some of my sort of process of doing it. I can't remember that kind of stuff. If any of that sounds at all interesting to you, then go check it out. But even if you don't, that'll be linked down below, that video we did on his channel. But even if you don't go watch that, which is totally fine, please just go check out his channel anyway and watch any other of his videos, because his channel is so good and really underrated. He does loads of great videos. He does some great videos on, which I really like, analysing Spirited Away. I think he did a scene-by-scene breakdown of Spirited Away, which I really love. I love Spirited Away. Fantastic movie. He does great character analysis of, he did one of all the different characters in The Breakfast Club from the point of view of a therapist. And it was just, yeah, it's really interesting, really like in-depth, deep dives. If you guys like that kind of stuff, if you really enjoy really in-depth, detailed analysis of stuff, then please go check out his channel. It's so good, and he does so many great videos. He also did one which I really love, which isn't really related to storytelling, but it was a sort of a discussion on one of Aurora's latest songs that came out, and he sort of talked about that in the video, and I really love that video. Yeah, there's a lot, and he's also got some of his own poetry on his YouTube channel, which I think is really good. So yeah, there's so much to check out. So go, it'll be linked down below. You can watch the interview we did together if you want. If not, go check out his channel. I've been talking too much, I'm gonna stop. Yeah, but one thing I do want to say as well is he's been so patient. So like I said, he emailed me months ago, and because of all this stuff with the lockdown and then getting the family business back up and running, I've been so busy these past few months, and there's just loads of stuff that's been happening. And then also I wanted to do the video I did, the last video I uploaded, about sort of current world events. I felt like that needed to get out before we uploaded our videos together, so we literally filmed these videos so long ago, but there was a lot of stuff that happened, and I wanted to get that up first, which he understood, and then there was loads of other stuff. So it's just been ages, basically. What I'm trying to say is he's been so patient throughout this whole process, even though I'm probably one of the worst people to work with, because I'm not very organised, but he's been great. So just want to say thanks to him for that, and go comment somewhere on his channel, Galatea says sorry. I'm joking, don't do that, because then he really will hate me, because if you spam him with all those comments. That was a joke, don't do that. Hi, okay, really quick, something else I wanted to mention that I completely forgot about because I'm an idiot. I really wanted to thank you guys so much for your response to my last video and the comments on it. I was honestly kind of prepared for anything, really, when I uploaded that video, but yeah, it was pretty great, and even those of you who disagreed with me, even who disagreed very strongly, were, most of you, like, generally very respectful with, like, really well thought out comments, and yeah, so I wanted to thank you for that, particularly for the people who disagreed with me, who were cool about it and left, like, well thought out, interesting new perspectives and comments rather than just F you bitch, you know. So thank you. Anyway, back to the video. Okay, also I think that's everything. Oh, another thing, I know I said I was going to do a video on what it means to be British that was going to be uploaded next. I don't know anymore. I've been looking back over the footage and I'm not really sure if I can make a good video out of it. I've been like rethinking that, but also because I'm super busy at the moment, again with like normal life stuff. I don't have a lot of time for, this is why, again, this video's taken so long to get out. And I don't know if that video is worth, I don't know, I've been looking back at the footage and I'll think about it and see if there's anything salvageable there, but I'm just not sure, so I don't know if that's happening anymore. But anyway, this is irrelevant, it's going on way too long, I need to get to the video. What was the other thing I wanted to say? There's one more thing, I'm looking at my notes here. What is the other thing? Oh, that's it. Okay, so because Joe doesn't show his face in his YouTube videos, and because I do in my videos, and because I filmed the discussion we did together. That's the other thing, I didn't even say what this video is about. We talk about originality in storytelling. Can you be original in storytelling? How do you be original in storytelling? It's a very in-depth discussion, and it's great to talk about it with someone else, and it was really good and interesting, so watch the rest of the video, yeah, in a sec. But because he doesn't show, oh my god, off track again, because he doesn't show his face in his videos, and I do, and because I filmed just me, I felt weird filming just me and then it's just his voice, so I sort of split screened it, and I just put an image of a different famous Joe every time he speaks, which is really shit, but I have a really shit sense of humour and I thought it was hilarious. So enjoy my really bad joke. But so there's that. I think that's everything. Enjoy. It's now going to cut straight to the video. Straight in there. Thanks, guys. I think this is an interesting topic to discuss just because I see this comment a lot. I'm going back to this again, I always bring this up to the Shadowhunters videos, but because I see a lot of comments a lot where, because I accuse Cassandra Clare's work of not being very original, because there's clear quote unquote inspiration from like Harry Potter and other stuff, and a lot of people made the point on some of my videos, and I think it is a good point, that she was just inspired by those works and that I'm being unfair on her. So I thought it would just be, it's kind of an interesting topic to discuss in more detail. Perhaps give some of my thoughts and also get your thoughts as well on like where that line is between taking inspiration from something and then just sort of ripping something off. But what I will say, I think what differs true inspiration from just nicking ideas, I actually do think that's quite subjective, which also is a good topic to discuss with someone else. So I'll give that to people who've criticised me. I'll agree on that count. So what I see as unoriginal in her work, someone else might see as genius and unique work of art. And as I said, we've got some topics that we're going to discuss, and we're going to sort of take it in turns with one of us going first and then the other person responding. Okay, so the first point is, and Joe, I think you're going to go first with this, the first question, is it possible to ever truly be original?
I mean, my first instinct on that is to probably say no, not truly. At least emotionally, I think you get a lot of stories where if you broke them down, kind of the emotional stuff expressed is similar. Like, coming of age or redemption or revenge or those sort of things. But I think you can make stories in bits original enough that it kind of, it feels like it's original, that you forget the rest of it. Like, even with just little things, I think, like, I don't know, bits of dialogue or jokes you make that feels like nothing you've come across before, or the way things are described, actually, like when you get when you read a description and you think, how the hell did anyone think of using that metaphor or describe it in that way? I guess an example of it, like with the character as well, I was thinking Gollum, because you did that video on Gollum ages ago.
Yeah.
And on one level, I guess you could say Gollum's not that original in that he's like this slightly grotesque character who's slowly gotten poisoned by this thing, and I think there's stuff like that mythically. But there's a point you made in that video about how innocent he is, and to think of making a character like that so innocent and childish seemed like a clever original thing, I think. So I think if you have enough things within the story that do feel original like that, and they all kind of knit together, then it just makes the whole thing feel original, even if on some level it probably isn't.
Yeah. That's a good point. I really like what you said. I didn't really come at it from like an emotional point of view, but I thought that was a really good point. I guess because no human experience is ever truly original either. Like, we've all sort of, even if people have vastly different lives, it's like emotionally we all have a lot of the same experiences. So that was a good point, actually, that that's obviously going to be reflected in the work that human beings produce. But I'd say as for your like overarching point, I'd say I agree with that. It's been said that all artists are thieves, and I'd like agree with that 100%. Yeah, and in simple terms, is it possible to ever truly be 100% original? No, I don't think so. But, and this quote I really love, I think it sums like up my feelings on the topic perfectly. Who was it that said this? Was it Newton? I don't know. But he said, "I stand on the shoulders of giants," which has like become a really, really famous quote now. But I love that, because I think if you take something and build on it and acknowledge what came before you and make it your own, I think, yes, that's being original, while also at the same time, no, it's not, because you've built on sort of what came before you. But, I mean, and I thought of it like, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. I love that continuous evolution, and I think, and I don't want to get too deep with this, but it makes me think that just like genetically, we as human beings can never be separated from what came before us and our ancestors, and it's like a continuous building on an evolution. It's the same creatively and with every other form of like human ingenuity. We're always connected to what came before us. So it's like, And I kind of really like that thought that just all the creative works of the modern day, and not just the modern day, all the creative works forever, but I'm thinking particularly in modern terms, they've all been like a team effort of like, so yeah, one person sort of did the final little bit of it or whatever, but it's really been like a team effort of thousands of or millions of people who've all sort of worked on that one piece of work, which I don't know, that's a really nice idea for me. So it's like, yeah, that's
I love
not
that idea, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's not original, but in that sense, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think, and like you said, I think you've just got to add your own twist, your own voice. So even though it's sort of part of something greater, it stands out as purely yours. So something that only you could have written or said in your particular way, rather than like a less good version of someone else's work. But of course, nothing's black or white. Nothing's ever 100% original or 100% unoriginal. It's all like a scale of, yeah.
I think that's a great way of looking at it, yeah. That makes it feel like everyone being creative it's like they're all in individuals somehow coming together.
Yeah.
I like that way of seeing it.
I don't know, it's kind of like a comforting idea. I don't know, maybe I'm just looking cheaply into it, but yeah. And a lot of these questions, lots of crossover, obviously, but next question, and I'll go first with this one, is it a bad thing to take ideas from other writers? People might be surprised by my answer to this, but in simplest terms, no, I don't think it is. I get a lot of comments saying like, oh, look at this writer, they also took this idea from someone else, just like Sandra Clare did, therefore they're also a bad writer, non-original. But in a lot of cases, I don't actually agree with that, like with the case they bring up, whatever it happens to be. Like in simplest terms, no, I don't think it's a bad thing in and of itself, even to lift an idea completely and put it in your story. And I actually think in a lot of ways it's unavoidable. And I think a lot of times it can be, in many ways it can be quite a lovely thing, like a tribute to something you love and that inspired you. I think the question of originality lies in how you do it. And I've got this example. Oh yeah, okay, I've got a kind of a convoluted, weird answer to this question, just because I came up with an example of something that was done well, I thought, that took an idea, made it original, but then I thought about it more and I'm not really sure. So so years before Harry Potter was published, there was a story written by Eva Robertson, who's one of my favourite writers, and it was a children's story called The Secret of Platform 13. And in this story there's a portal in a train station which leads to another magical world. And in this story as well, there's a young boy who's raised by awful people, and he's got an adopted brother who is really similar to Dudley. He's like Dudley in a lot of ways. And I've seen some people accuse J.K. Rowling of nicking this idea. And initially I was like, I'm not sure I agree with this. Like, at least, like the bit about the platform and the other similarities with the Dursleys, I don't know, it's maybe it's a coincidence and that's not where she got the idea. But either way, initially I was like, I think she's made it so much her own and integrated it so well into her world, as well as the end result being such a vastly different story, because they are, apart from that, the stories are very different, that I wouldn't call ripping it off, just using something she thought was cool and changing it. But then I had the other thought, and I think if you just take it on that level, no, I don't think J.K. Rowling was doing a bad thing in lifting that idea. However, the thing I thought of was, is there a power element that comes into this? So is it different if you've been inspired by something that's really well known and it's totally obvious that you've been inspired by it? I think that's not such a bad thing. But with J.K. Rowling taking ideas from The Secret of Platform 13, it's sort of more fishy because it's not a very well-known story. So a lot of it almost seems like, I think in that sense, it can almost seem like you're trying to take credit for something that isn't yours. I think if it had been a really famous story and it had been obvious, I think I'd be like, yeah, that's totally fine. It's original enough that she's just taking this cool concept. And I think perhaps a better good example is like Neil Gaiman taking the idea for the Graveyard Book from the Jungle Book. Seems more like he's paying homage to something rather than trying to take credit, because the Jungle Book is so famous, and he also references it whenever he talks about the Graveyard Book. He references it as an inspiration. It's in the name, and yeah, I don't know. Sorry, that was a long tangent because I just had that thought. I don't know if that's an important element to consider. Yeah.
No, I hadn't thought of that. That's a really good point about the power of it, because I imagine that would, if your book isn't as well known, and like with that example, everybody knows Harry Potter, if they then stumbled upon this book, they'd kind of think, oh, this is a rip-off of Harry Potter, and probably lose some interest in it. So it probably harms the marketing of a book like that, in a way, if you find it from Harry Potter. But yeah, there's something else you said in there as well that was... Oh yeah, the fact you were saying that with the Harry Potter example, that it could take that and then that's just the one bit of the book and then it goes on to be something so different. It's kind of what I was thinking about with the whole nicking stuff thing, because I think it's very natural to see something and go, I want to make something like that, and just being inspired and motivated by it and thinking, I want to do something that looks like that in some way or feels like that.
Yeah.
And that's normally what I find. And then it's like that's your vision to start with, and you go out and you start thinking more about it. Well, what can I do? How do I get this thing? Like the novel, you start having to write and figure out all the other characters, and it's like slowly you kind of veer away from that starting concept and end up going in a slightly different track. But none of that would happen if you didn't have the inspiration to begin with. So in that sense, I don't know. And I guess, well, it's natural to. That's kind of how you find your own style in the first place, is by nicking things from other people. And you try out other stuff that in a way other people have done it, and there's some bits of it you kind of keep and other bits you throw away, and then you take something from something else, and then eventually you've got enough bits that it becomes your own thing. Then I guess that takes a long time for people to really develop a style. So I don't. In that sense, it's natural to sort of nick things to begin with, particularly. And so I think I agree in a way that in and of itself, taking ideas isn't a bad thing. I guess it's just what you go on to do with them. If it is like your evolution example of evolving it into something else, or if it's just the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that line is subjective.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this down actually as well. It's like, I think all writers are magpies, and it's not so much in what you take, but in how you put it together that makes it original or not. Because if you're not going to take an idea from another writer, then inevitably you'll take something from maybe your own experience, or from a cool idea you heard, or someone you meet that you think, oh, they'd be a cool basis for a character. So it's like, you're obviously going to take things from the world around you. But yeah, it's just in sort of how you put it together, I guess.
I suppose it's like, I'm thinking like, it's an odd example in a way, but that's making me think of like chefs and how they take a dish and change it slightly. But there's only so many ingredients in the world, and they all have to use the same ones. So there's always going to be a bit of nicking in that sense, because there's only so much they can draw from. So I guess it's a bit like that.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good example. I think that is the thing. It's in how you sort of do it and how you craft it that makes it original or not. Not so much if you take or even lift an idea completely. In a lot of ways, it's kind of paying a nice tribute to something. But I guess then there's that question of if something's less well known or not very well known at all, are you on shaky ground then? Because then it's not so much paying tribute to something as like taking credit for something that's not your idea. Which actually brings us on quite well to the next question. And I'll let you go first and answer this one. So, where does paying homage to something become just nicking a better idea and using that in your story? So where do we draw the line? If we can.
Yeah, I mean, the power thing you said about that, yeah, that comes into it really well. I mean, I was thinking in a sense though, because paying homage is something I think, we often accept and we're quite happy about. And I was trying to think, I don't know if we should be or not, because it's like, if everyone's nicking things, and normally you expect them to do it in a way that's quite subtle and to change things so you don't notice too much, but paying homage is kind of like the opposite and making it more obvious rather than subtle. And I don't know whether that's then lazy to not be hiding it, or if it's more honest to kind of put your hands up and say, yep, I've nicked this thing, here it is. Yeah, and I don't know whether that's more lazy or more honest, or if it's both.
It's probably... Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. No, I just probably just in like how you do it. Now I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Sorry, continue. I'm sure it was really clever, but never mind.
Hopefully it come back then. No, I mean, I suppose I was just I mean the power of it idea coming into that really well, because it is. I think that does change it a lot. Because if it is something that's really well known and everybody likes, and you're holding your hands up to it, it's almost like being a fan of that work. And if everyone else is a similar fan of it, it's like just joining in people of appreciating this thing. And that, I guess that's technically quite positive. Whereas if it's not a well-known thing and it doesn't feel like I don't know, that could be positive as well. If you do it in a way where it kind of promotes this unknown book, I suppose. And you make it obvious enough, and you're kind of suggesting people should go out and look for it and read that as well. I guess maybe that's quite a positive thing.
Yeah. And I could be wrong, but I've never, as far as I'm aware, seen J.K. Rowling ever mention that or heard her. Maybe she has, I could be wrong. Or maybe she hasn't been inspired. I'd be very surprised if she hasn't been inspired by it though. It's very similar in a lot of ways. From the first book, at least. Yeah, I think that's a good point you said about whether... it's a question of whether you are giving credit where credit's due. I think with what you're saying about is paying homage to something in and of itself actually lazy, but you're just saying, okay, I'm being lazy, but I'm admitting it and here's where I got the idea. I think it depends how you do it. So like, same example as before with Neil Gaiman in the Graveyard book. Like it's very clear that he's taken the idea of a young boy growing up in a jungle and been raised by animals, but it's a young boy growing up in a graveyard and being raised by ghosts. And I think paying homage to something is fine if you're making it enough of your own. So it's like he's obviously taking that initial concept, but the story is so like cool and so like Neil Gaiman, just so vastly different from the Jungle Book, and so unique. He's like, yeah, I've taken this initial concept, and he's paying homage to a book that he really loves, but he's also like, it's just a completely different story and his own take on the idea. I think a lot of the answer to this as well is like, where's the line between paying homage and just making a better idea? I think a lot of it is more like, it's quite abstract and intuitive and more of a know it when you see it type thing. But I think part of the answer to it is that if the concept or idea is what the whole value of your story is riding on, and you've only created a pale copy of what came before, that's sort of just nicking a better idea and using it, I guess, as opposed to either evolving it, making it better, or like making it something completely your own. I hate going back to this. People are bloody sick of hearing me talk about it, but I will. I'm just gonna, because people ask me all the time why I think Shadowhunters is an original. But for me, I think it's because the story feels so empty, at least for me. Like beyond the surface level characters and ideas inspired by Harry Potter and other better stories, I personally don't really think there's much there. There doesn't really feel like there's any life or character to the story, at least in my opinion. It doesn't feel like there's anything like real there. Like the characters feel less real than they did in their original form as Harry Potter characters. And if people are wondering what I'm talking about, The Mortal Instrument started off as Harry Potter fanfiction. So yeah, but sorry, I'm conscious of the fact I'm talking loads and rambling, but just to give a contrasting opinion, an example of the opposite, in my opinion at least, and I brought it up in the video we did on your channel as well, would be the Raven cycle. So Maggie Stiefvater herself has said that she was inspired by a series called The Dark is Rising, which I have also read. I've read the first book of that series, and you can clearly see the influences. Like, just her series, just like The Dark is Rising, is also a quest. It also involves searching for something ancient and mythological, drawing on ancient Welsh legends, and it also involves a group of kids. So, like, on surface level ideas on paper, it kind of looks very similar. But the stories are so different. Like, the Raven cycle has taken this initial concept, but Maggie Stiefvater has just run with it and made it totally her own, with characters and a story that feels so real. It's, for me anyway, it seems to like leap off the page. And no one could have written that story but her. She hasn't just done like another version of a different story, but she's made it a really unique story that's her own. And I think that makes it original insofar as it is possible to be original. If that makes sense.
That was a good answer.
But tell me to shut up at any time, please, because otherwise I'll just not stop.
I'm selfish. You get more out of listening to people than you do saying what you already know.
I need to do more listening and less talking, I think. But yeah. Okay. This next question is, but why is it a bad thing to be unoriginal? Or is it a bad thing, and why does it matter? To answer this question, I'm going to be lazy, and in the spirit of this video, I guess, nick someone else's better idea. I'm going to reference a video called How to Bore Your Audience by The Closer Look, and it was a really great video. Everyone should watch it if they haven't already. It was talking about the difference between tropes versus cliches, and I think that's relevant here, and he had a really great answer as to why cliches and being unoriginal are a bad thing beyond just the fact that they're lazy.
This is the reason why cliches are so dangerous. Not because cliches are lazy, rather the reason why you should never use them is because they are so overdone they have entirely lost their original effect. The core reason why cliches are bad and unoriginality is bad is because every time one sees a thing in fiction, one becomes immunised to it just that little bit.
So yeah, like when a character says something like, for example, a fate worse than death, we don't register the phrase and the meaning of this doesn't actually hit us. Like, it doesn't mean anything. just means something bad. And I think, apart from the fact that it's just morally questionable if you're taking someone else's hard work and are using it, I think that's another reason why it's a bad thing to be original, because in unoriginality, nothing is surprising. Therefore, what value does your story have? How is it interesting? How can it surprise and delight the reader? How will anything have a lasting impact or make us think or feel anything? If it doesn't feel real, and like, even if it's something that's been done 100 times before, it needs to feel like it's the first time we're reading it. So it's not, so even if, it doesn't matter if you're telling a story that's been done before or describing something that's been described a million times, if you do it in such a way that's unique to you, you can make the reader see that old thing through fresh eyes, I guess. And if it feels new, then I think that's all that matters.
I think you said probably in better words what I would have said, really.
Not my words though, so.
Alright, in someone else's words, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely lazy, but it's not just that. It's, dull, I guess, or like you said about lifeless, with Cassandra Clare's kind of books. I mean, I've never read them. I only know from your videos about them. But I was thinking of, like, there's this thing I find when I try and write, which I call autopilot, where, and it normally happens when I'm doing dialogue with characters or something, and I get into this kind of cruise control where I'm not really thinking, and they're just saying the first things that come into my head, and it's just the most obvious stuff that pushes the plot along. But, people don't talk like that in real life. People don't just say the most predictable thing. They think in really odd ways and suddenly say something that surprises you. And that's what made conversation interesting. If you knew exactly what the other person was going to say all the time, you wouldn't bother talking.
Yeah.
Because you should already know it. And that's what brings conversations to life, I guess, when people say things a bit unpredictable. That just kind of shakes everything awake a bit, and catches you by surprise, and that's what makes you interested. And I think that in general, not just with dialogue, but with whole stories and ideas, if you're kind of in that autopilot where you're just not quite thinking as creatively as you could do, and you just, even if you're not consciously nicking something, but just doing, I don't know, you have the typical cliches at the back of your head and they just come out because you're not thinking further. Yeah, then you do end up with a really dead, predictable book where it's not just what's going to happen, but you then roll your eyes when it does happen, I suppose. But I was trying to think of an argument on the other side, as a devil's advocate thing, I guess. And it's that, I guess, being unoriginal is good marketing wise, probably, in that, like, from a totally business, if not creative side, that if it's familiar to something else you like, and you can say, oh, it's like this book, then you go, oh, I like that, I'd be interested. Like, I can remember I don't know if it's true, I had a tutor once telling me that the bloke who made the Alien films, that when he went in to pitch the idea for the first film, his whole entire pitch was just, it's Jaws but in space, and that was all he said. And they went, yep, we like Jaws, that did well, make this film. So I guess business wise,
that's true from a marketing standpoint, I guess. Actually, that's a good point.
But that's the side I don't like, though. Even if it's marketing wise, I don't.
But then I guess that goes back to the whole thing of taking an original, like something, a feeling or an atmosphere or an idea from something else and making it your own. Like, I love fantasy, so I know that if there's another fantasy book, maybe not, a lot of fantasy I don't like, but there's a more likely chance, that I'll like it because it's fantasy. So I'm like, oh cool, I'm into fantasy. It's like familiar in that way, and I know I'll see certain things and elements. But if I read a book that's just like, it needs to be original in itself, and the story still needs to be surprising in some way. So I guess that is an interesting point.
It's like an adventure, I guess, in that way. And even if it's similar to something else, it's still got to feel like a new adventure. Yeah,
which is, going back to what you said about dialogue, when you said it's, in real life people say things that are surprising. I thought that was really good. I thought that was really interesting to bring up, because I guess stories, just like, in a weird way, reading a story needs to sort of be like the experience of living life. Like, you're reading the story to read about other people's lives, and life is by its very nature unpredictable. Even if you're living a totally ordinary life and whatever, there are going to be things that happen that are just come completely out of nowhere, or completely unpredictable and random. So I guess a story needs to be surprising in the same way that your life is surprising. Yeah, and I guess I guess that's the thing that makes a story feel real. I think there is an element, like if something's original, it feels more real because it's not just like, oh, I know this is going to happen, and then you're distant from it and it feels sort of fake, like it's mimicking something else. Whereas if something is surprising, it feels more real by its very nature because you don't know what's going to happen next, and it's like, oh, this. Yeah, I don't know. It feels more like life, if that makes sense. Sorry, I'm talking too much again, but yeah. Thought that was an interesting point you brought up.
That was good. Yeah, no, I think when you said that as well, about even if it is quite ordinary, how it needs to... Because I think like Dickens is a good example of that, because most of his stories are very realistic or ordinary for the time they were written, but the characters themselves seem so bizarre and different and interesting that makes everything very unique.
Yeah. And then and then surprising things still sort of happening, and you can't really predict a lot of times where things are going to go. Yeah, that's a good point. Do you have anything else to add, or should I go on to the next?
That's all I can think of there, yeah.
Cool. So, the next question is... And you're going... Yeah, wait, you're going first this time, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
So it gets confusing, because I'm talking too much, so I can't keep track of... Yeah. So, next one is... Should writers worry about originality? Should they go out of their way to try and be original?
I don't know if they should worry exactly, because I think if you worried too much, you might end up trying too hard to be original. Like, and I was thinking of this, like the example of Game of Thrones. I mean, I never really saw much of it, but from what I was told about the later series is that it was like they were trying so hard to do unpredictable things that it then left plot holes and left the characters doing things that doesn't fit who they're supposed to be. And I guess if you've gotten to know characters, although they still need to be unpredictable and surprise you at times, you want to feel like you can understand their behaviour, that you've got to know them well enough that it kind of makes sense. So I guess if you worry too much, you might end up trying too hard to be original and then lose the believable side, I suppose. But I do think, I don't know, I think you should be excited to do something original, I guess. It's like, well, with a novel anyway, you've got total creative freedom to do anything you want. You can create whatever world, whatever characters, make them do anything at all. So why do the same stuff as everyone else? It's like, there's so much potential to do something more. It's like if you gave a kid a whole box of toys and he only ever played with one of them. I just feel, just have fun to muck about a bit. And I think that just you having fun then makes it more fun for anyone reading it. Yeah, that's what I would say. Just not necessarily worry, but be excited about the opportunity, I think. I think that made sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. That's great. I like that distinction between, to be excited about making something original. That's a really good point as well. An example you brought up with Game of Thrones. I actually didn't have an example for this one. But yeah, I think that's so accurate. This is what I heard. I'm not sure if this is true, but I heard that there were so many fan theories about how it was going to end that they tried doing everything they could to like avoid doing what so fans had guessed it. I don't know if that's true, but I heard that they tried to sort of do something completely different from what everyone guessed. And it's like, okay, but if you set it up that way, it doesn't matter if some people have guessed it. It's still going to be epic and surprising, and no one's going to have guessed everything. But yeah, the ending. I won't go off on a rant about the Game of Thrones ending. I mean, if they'd given it more seasons to build up to that point, that would have been fine. It wasn't actually how it ended that annoyed me. It was that it just came completely out of nowhere, and it's like, why is this character now doing this? Why is this person doing this? Why the hell has this happened? But yeah. So, yeah. So there's that. But anyway, that aside, yeah, I think I agree with you on this one as well, that I think if you set out to be original just for the sake of it, well, firstly, you'll probably go crazy. And also, most likely, I think, end up with something unoriginal, but just unoriginal and pretentious. And I think, I think you'll end up with something inauthentic. And I think inauthenticity is the death of originality in a lot of, because I don't know. I think also that it can feel, if you're trying so hard to be original, it can feel unnatural, and like the story isn't flowing as smoothly as it could. If you're actively avoiding anything that feels unoriginal. Plus, it's an impossible task. Like, there's nothing new under the sun, It's going to have been done before. So you might as well, I think write whatever the hell you want. And how, if you want to write it, again, it's not what you do, but how you do it. Or what story you tell. Just if you tell it in a interesting new way. And in your own voice, I think, yeah. I'll stop now because I won't go on another rant, but yeah. That's my answer to that one. So the last question, if we know it's, and I think we've seemed to agree on, established, if we know it's not possible to ever truly be original, what do we think most people mean when they say something is original? How can you be original? Is it me going first?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Sorry. Okay, so to answer this, again, I'm going to nick someone else's idea, or actually no, I'm going to use someone else's idea as a starting point and then go on to discuss, be truly original. So I saw, it got recommended to me on YouTube, a video of Neil Gaiman, and I know you've probably seen it, it's a clip from his masterclass. It's just sort of a 5-minute long video where he was talking about trying to find his voice when he was a young writer, and he said that initially he used to copy the voices and styles. That initially he used to copy the voices and styles of other writers. And he made a really interesting point, which I think is really true. He said that finding his voice was about honesty. And I really agree with that. I think tell whatever story you want to tell, no matter if it's been done 100 times before, but if there's something honest in it, if you're telling the truth about yourself and your life, then it's inevitably going to be unique to you. Yeah, you've given sort of the reader a gift that no one else can, like told the truth that no one else can, and in that way it's original. Yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, and I know it's a very abstract thing to sort of try and explain, but I think the best way to try and be original, I'd say, is to just be honest. Even if someone else has been honest in the same way you have before, I still think you're gonna have something different to offer, and that being honest about yourself or your life or humanity or whatever else through your work, I think that's, I think originality lies in truth, I think. Because if you're being honest, that's the most original thing that comes straight from you, even if someone else has said it before. If you're telling the purest truth you can, you're not copying someone else, because how could you be? Because it's coming, like, I guess as close to the source as possible, if that makes sense. The closer you are to yourself, the more original you are, I think. And just like Neil Gaiman said, I think that requires a kind of bravery and vulnerability. I think don't try to be original, just try to be honest, would be my answer to that, I think. Over to you.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. Yeah, that's fun, actually, the idea of how authenticity is in it, and I guess feeling it's sincere does make a very big difference. I guess the opposite, it could end up seeming pretentious otherwise. My advice is a different way would just be just to have fun, I think, and just relish the chance to muck about and mess up your story a bit and throw things out of order, because that's what makes it feel alive. That's like shaking it when something's starting to fall asleep, just shaking it a bit to wake it up. Yeah, and it's like, and then if you're having fun doing that, then the reader's having more fun reading it, I think, and it's less like if autopilot is you kind of half asleep, then it's going to send your readers half to sleep. So I guess it's just have fun, kind of think and be aware when you're falling into a sort of autopilot. Yeah, and I guess about the finding your voice thing as well. It's probably good just to explore as many different types of things, and not just different genres, but if it's music as well, or art, or just looking at people in real life and just drawing on as many different things as you can, so that even if you do nick things, it doesn't feel so much like a one thing. And that just helps build up your voice, I guess. Yeah, so be honest and have fun seems like a nice conclusion there. I think
that's a good balance, actually, because my answer, I guess it's good in theory, but then a lot of people are like, how do I do that though? How do you be honest? And also, I think then you're in danger of, again, trying to, like, if you're writing something, of getting too much stuck in your head and too serious, and like, I really need to be honest here. And then I think that's a good balance. So pour your soul out, be honest, but also good balance, have fun as well, because otherwise you can get too stuck in trying too hard to be too serious. And I think that's a good thing. Pour out your soul, but also shake things up and have fun with it, muck about. That's a good answer. And also a good point you said as well about reading, like, different things, different music and whatever else. I think that's a good point as well, because if you're just consuming one type of media or even one specific genre, like if you really want to be a fantasy writer but all you're reading is like this really specific genre of fantasy, I think that can be a bad thing, because then, yeah, I think it's more likely that you're going to be unoriginal then. Whereas if you're consuming like a whole variety of things, then maybe there's this cool concept or idea that's in like, I don't know, like a chick lit novel that you're like, oh, that'd be great for my thriller, like, you know, this thriller I'm writing. Or whatever happens to be, you know, I think that's when things are constantly like, there's like cross-pollination without things getting too stagnant in one particular thing, I think. So yeah, I agree with that. I think that was a really good answer. So yeah, I'll stop talking again. Cool.
I feel like we've achieved something now somehow.
Yeah, cool. Do you have anything else to add on any of those topics or anything?
No, I think that was a really nice conclusion. I did like you said, there's like another quote somewhere, inauthenticity is the death of originality. I just like that as a line.
Yeah, I think that's probably true in a lot of cases, yeah. But then also, yeah, have fun with it. I think maybe trying too hard to be honest is kind of like the same thing as trying too hard to be original. Maybe it would, I don't know, maybe not, but it might take you down the same path. Mucking about, I think, as well, is healthy. Awesome, well thank you very much for doing this video with me. Yeah, it's been very good discussion, very snazzy.
Yeah, it's been fun. I guess I'm so used to in my channel just talking to myself or to the microphone. It's nice for me to learn something else from someone else talking for a change.
Yeah, it's good. Same here. I mean, as I've demonstrated again here, I talk way too much, but it's good. It's good. Like a lot of actually new perspectives and ideas on some things. So yeah, thanks very much. Just a quick outro because I don't know if I did a proper outro, and I feel like it's weird the way the video ended. So if needed, yeah, this is the video ending. Again, the video we did on his channel will be linked down below, along with his channel. So please go check it out. Yeah, go watch that. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't know what else to say. Cool. Hope you all guys are doing well. Bye. Bye. I need to. There we go.